Today we're going to be looking at more missing people who were eventually found. I posted part 1 a week ago, so we're now going to look at some more because you guys really enjoyed that video.
Brenda Heist. On the morning of February 8th, 2002, Brenda Heist dropped her children off at school and disappeared without a trace.
At the age of 54, her daughter was 8, her son was 12 when Heist chose to walk away.
That's a bit weird, isn't it? I mean, there's obviously a reason she literally, like, abandoned her children. But, like, I can imagine it. Like, imagine one day your mum literally drops you off at school and then, like, you never see her for, like, years.
The family was understandably devastated, and Heist's husband petitioned to have her declared legally dead. The case was solved in 2013 to mixed results.
Okay, so, like, 10 years later, they figured it out, like, what happened to her. I want to know why, though. Like, I think she ended up being homeless. Like, why did she just, like, you know, disappear?
Heist intentionally left her family in Pennsylvania behind to live as a homeless person in Florida. She had hitchhiked there with a group of people without homes and spent the next decade working odd jobs in the state.
Okay, so she literally dropped her kids off at school and then hitched, like, ride to Florida with, like, other homeless people. So she literally abandoned her family to become homeless. I mean, there's obviously a reason she'd done it, and I don't know why.
According to Heist, she had abandoned her family for stress-related reasons, but this story does not have a happy ending.
Oh god, there's not a happy ending. What's happened? What's she done? Is she in jail? I mean, in that first clip, I thought she was in jail. I mean, don't get me wrong, family can be very stressful. I completely understand that bit. But to completely, you know, just, like, abandon them, that's a bit extreme, isn't it?
Heist's husband claimed that he had no desire to see her, and her now grown daughter doesn't think her mother, quote, deserves to see her.
I don't know that I've ever stopped crying and started living, to be honest with you.
Was she in jail? I'm sorry, but this literally looks like jail, doesn't it? Is that jail? I don't know. I mean, she's getting interviewed by Dr. Phil. So basically, yeah, she ran away from home and now her husband and children don't want to see her. I mean, I feel bad for her, but you do have to keep in mind, you know, you basically did abandon them.
Michelle Whitaker. South Carolina woman Michelle Whitaker went missing in August of 2002 after a friend gave her a lift to a truck stop.
Is she walking around somewhere? Is she okay? Or is she laying in a ditch somewhere?
I mean, to be fair, that is literally what could be happening. She could have just completely disappeared, or she could be in a ditch. And a lot of times they are eventually found and alive, which is really sad. But you know, this video is kind of bittersweet because, like, they were all eventually found alive.
Her case later turned into a homicide investigation, and police suspected a man named Jonathan Vick. Vick was the boyfriend of Whitaker's co-worker, and she had also gone missing. However, police were unable to prove that Vick killed Whitaker. The case went cold until 2008.
6 years later, something's happened. They found her, and I wonder where she's went. I think a lot of these people are running away for pretty decent reasons. Maybe she was in an abusive relationship.
An Oregon woman was watching a Forensic Files episode about Vick when a picture of Whitaker flashed on screen. The woman recognized Whitaker as her neighbor and contacted the authorities.
Oh god, so she was literally living beside someone like that. Could you imagine that? That would be quite crazy, wouldn't it? Like, you're literally watching a TV program and it's like your neighbor. I mean, none of my neighbors are missing. None of them are criminals, which is good. I hope I'll never see them in television.
Her neighbor was indeed the missing Michelle Whitaker, and she later told her family that she had fled South Carolina to start a new life in Oregon.
So yeah, she literally fled to start a new life. But it's like, why? It's like, obviously she's got her reasons, but it's like, I don't know, I feel bad for the family. It's like the whole time the family literally thought she was deceased, and it just turns out she had started a brand new life.
Gabriel Nagy. When one hears fugue state, they probably think of that Breaking Bad episode where Walt walks around a supermarket in his birthday suit. Well, that was reality for Gabriel Nagy. Back in January of 1987, the husband and father disappeared under mysterious circumstances. He was reported missing after he failed to return home for lunch, and his burnt-out vehicle was later discovered.
Now that is scary. A burnt-out vehicle that the person was driving, now they're missing. That is freaky.
Nagy remained missing until 2012, when a police officer tracked him down and found him alive and well. Nagy had seemingly suffered a dissociative fugue state, a rare psychiatric disorder characterized by a loss of memory of one's identity and personality. Put simply, Nagy forgot who he was.
Oh my god, I couldn't imagine that. That would be freaky. Like, one day you wake up and you forget who you are. I was thinking maybe, you know, he was trying to use that as like a distraction to like run away, you know, with the burnt car. But why did he burn the car? Did he like get freaked out because like he didn't remember who he was and thought that he like stole a car?
And wandered away to start a new life.
I mean, at least we know that he was fine. In the end, it turns out he was just, you know, suffering from mental health. However, that doesn't describe why his car was burned. Did he do it? Did someone else do it? I want the answers.
Lula Hood. There's just something about Florida that apparently attracts people. A woman named Lula Hood went missing all the way back in 1970. According to Hood's relatives, she simply disappeared from Illinois without a trace.
Wow, 1970, that is a long time ago. How many years was that? Over 50 years. A lot of these people went missing like 2002, like I was literally born that year. It's quite crazy to think that like before I was born, some of these people were literally missing.
No word was heard until 1996, when Hood's family was told that her remains were found in a Florida brickyard.
Oh god, well that was bad. That's not the ending I was hoping for. Whenever you get news like that, obviously it's heartbreaking, but you know, you're thankful that, you know, you can close the case, you kind of know what happened in the end and you've, you know, settled yourself. But I've got a feeling we're about to get hit with another plot twist.
That it was her, but at that time they couldn't do DNA because it wasn't that advanced yet.
Oh right, so they thought it was her, but they didn't have like the DNA technology. I'm assuming it wasn't her then, that was someone else's body. That's quite crazy, isn't it? How like back in the day, obviously the DNA technology was completely different. So if they found a body and they thought it was someone, they weren't 99.9% sure. There is like a possibility it was someone else.
That remained the official story until 2009, when the remains were tested for DNA. Surprise, they didn't belong to Hood. The case was reopened, and investigators eventually tracked Hood to another place in Florida where she'd been living for the last 40 years.
So yeah, she had literally been living there for like 40 years since she had disappeared. That's so crazy, like they literally had like a funeral for her, I'm assuming. And like the whole time she was actually alive. There was probably people at that funeral who died before, you know, she eventually was found alive again. So they went to their grave thinking that their relative had died when all along she wasn't dead.
According to Hood's daughter, Hood got into a squabble with a family member and was told to leave. She did, going all the way to Florida and living her life in complete anonymity.
I mean, that's a pretty extreme argument. You literally get into a scrap with them, then you just disappear. I mean, if I ever get into a scrap with a family member or friend, I'm definitely going to keep that in the back of my mind. Do I really want them to disappear for like the rest of my life?
Nguyen Tifan. Vietnamese high school student Nguyen Tifan vanished in 1992. Tifan returned home but found herself locked out because of the late time, so she relocated to a nearby karaoke bar. The next morning, a disoriented Fan woke up in China. She had been taken to the country by a woman named Tan.
I'm sorry, what? Whoa, that was a plot twist. So obviously she was on the night out, she came home, she was locked out, she went back to a karaoke bar, and then she was like disoriented and woke up in China. How did she get into China?
Who tortured her and her friends and forced them to marry older local Chinese men.
Okay, yes, this is in... What? So she basically got trafficked. Oh my god, it's quite crazy to think that like that literally happened. Like think of it, whenever stuff like that happens, situations, that's a human. Like that is someone like us. Like they have their own brain, their own mind. It's kind of like whenever you see someone behind bars, it's like that's a human. That's someone's life. Like it's quite crazy, isn't it?
She eventually fled with the help of a local driver and returned to Hanoi. In a moment that would be too unbelievable for fiction, Fawn approached a man on the street and asked for directions. That man happened to be her uncle.
What? I'm sorry, what? I mean, thank God luck was on her side. Obviously, that other woman who trafficked her into China is gonna get bad karma. That's like the best luck ever, and do you want to know something? You can definitely tell fate was on your side.
He took her to the family home, and Fawn was reunited with her family after 21 years.
Oh my god, 21 years she was married to a man against her will. I mean, do you want to know something? With people nowadays, she could have went up to that man and he could have hurt her. But thank God it was her uncle. Like imagine that. That's like a 0.0000001% chance of happening. And thankfully it happened to her.
Amanda Eller. Yoga teacher and physical therapist Amanda Eller decided to go for a hike through the Hawaiian wilderness. He never returned home, and her boyfriend quickly reported her missing.
This is actually a big fear of mine. Like I love going up to mountains. Whenever I was younger, I used to go to a place called Moore Mountains in Northern Ireland. I climbed all them mountains. It's really beautiful. But like I don't know why. I kind of want to go there on my own or like with my friends. Not my parents are kind of old. I don't want to do it with them. You know, like I'd be scared like one of my friends would go there or I'd go there and like we'd get lost. I mean, I'm terrified because I genuinely would have thought there's like a demon in like the mountains or like the boogeyman lives up there.
Her vehicle was found abandoned near Maui's Kahakapau Trail, but there were no signs of Eller. She had accidentally wandered off the trail and found herself in the middle of the remote wilderness.
How long do you reckon she was there for? I mean, I think we're going to find out because she was eventually found alive, thank God. But, like, that's quite scary, isn't it? I mean, if I ever do go walk into places, I make sure, like, it's not, like, too big. Just, like, if I do get lost, you know, I'd eventually be able to get out within, like, the space of, like, half an hour. I'm not going to, like, walk into, like, the Amazon rainforest.
When it was obvious that help wasn't coming, she was forced to live off wild plants, berries, and rainwater.
I mean, with berries, you have to be careful because some berries are, like, poisonous. I can't remember where exactly she is. I know she is somewhere in the wilderness, but I'd be so scared of, like, there being animals, like coyotes, or, like, bears, or, like, wolves, or, like, even, like, a snake or a spider. Imagine you get, like, bit by one of them.
After over 2 long and grueling weeks, Eller was finally located by a search party and rescued via helicopter.
2 weeks? I was thinking maybe 2 or 3 days, but 2 weeks? It's quite crazy to think you can literally get lost just like that that, and she was probably freaking out the whole time. I mean, I don't know what I'd do. I probably would, you know, end it all. After a couple days, you'd be thinking, yeah, I'm never gonna be found. Like, even if I do, you know, lose my life here, they're never gonna find my body.
The last 17 days of my life have been the toughest days of my life. And it's been a really significant spiritual journey.
She was in surprisingly good condition and was treated at a local hospital for a fractured leg.
I'm just the girl that got lost in the woods, and you guys like showed up hard. Like, this is like true aloha.
I mean, thank God she was fine in the end. She did get a bit of a fractured leg, but she was alive. I mean, if I ever am gonna go somewhere, I'm gonna definitely stick to the path, take people with me, and not go too far in.
Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Georgina DeJesus.
Okay, so I've actually watched a lot of true crime. I know who these girls are. If I am correct, they were kidnapped and kept in a basement for many years, and also their kidnapper like impregnated them. It's terrible what humans can do to each other, isn't it?
This is easily one of the most famous kidnapping stories of our time, having attained fame through its dramatic conclusion. Between 2002 and 2004, a man named Ariel Castro kidnapped the three women off the streets of Cleveland by offering them lifts.
It's quite crazy, isn't it? Like, he was just able to do that. He was just able to snatch them, and they were like missing for like 10 years. It's crazy. I mean, I don't trust anyone anyways, but like that is another reason not to trust people. He probably seemed like a really sweet man, but like deep down he was evil.
They remained in his house for roughly a decade and were subjected to various forms of horrible torture. It wasn't until May 6th, 2013 that Berry saw her chance of escape.
So obviously she's seen a chance to escape and get away from literal hell on earth, and she took it and it was successful. It's crazy to think that if she didn't make that run, they probably would still be there, or even worse, they wouldn't be alive.
Castro had accidentally left a door unlocked, and Berry was able to contact passing neighbors.
So we kick the bottom, and she comes out with the little girl, and she says, call 911. My name is Amanda Berry.
They helped Berry and her daughter escape the house, and she telephoned the police to report the kidnappings.
Do you want to know what the weird thing is? That man who was giving an interview, what he said actually got turned into a meme. They didn't put it in the video, but basically he was talking about how like a little white girl ran up to him, and he's like, that was weird, like he didn't expect that. But you know, it's quite crazy to think that like he literally like helped to like save these women.
After which the other two were rescued. Castro was arrested that same day, and he would later take his own life in his detention cell.
It makes you think, how does he do it? Like, how did he get away with it? He got the easy way out. I mean, with people like him, like you literally have to have them under 24-hour security and protection. You don't know, someone in there could try to hurt him, or he could try to hurt himself, and obviously he was successful in the end.
Stephen Stayner.
25 years ago, the nation was shocked and overjoyed to hear that two missing children had been found alive.
On December 4th, 1972, young Stephen Stayner was abducted by Irvin Murphy and Kenneth Parnell. Stayner proceeded to live as Parnell's son while being continuously subjected to his depraved whims. Parnell attempted to use Stayner in other kidnappings, but Stayner was uncooperative.
I've spoken about this before, but I love Criminal Minds, and I swear this was also like a storyline. There was a couple who kidnapped girls, and they would use the girls to like lure other girls in. This is also real, by the way. Like, all these things in this video are real. It's crazy to think that like people can literally do that to a child.
In fact, on the night of March 1st, 1980, he and a young boy named Timmy White escaped Parnell's house and made their way to a local police station. Stayner was finally reunited with his family the following day. He wasn't the boy they remembered, but a teenager now.
I mean, it's crazy to think that he literally got away like that, and like if he didn't, he'd still be there. It does make you think, you know, how long would it go on for? Obviously, you can't hold them captive forever. The kidnappers are going to grow old, and like they might, you know, be able to get away. It's just crazy, isn't it? It's like you don't know where someone who's missing could be. They could literally be in your neighbor's back garden. It's just freaky.
He found it difficult to adjust and mostly kept his experiences to himself after Stayner died in a motorcycle accident at age 24.
I'm sorry, what? So he literally got away and then he lost his life? Oh my god, that's horrible. Look.
Jaycee Dugard. Little Jaycee Dugard was tased and snatched off the street while approaching her school bus on June 10th, 1991.
Yet again, I think I remember this girl. I don't remember what happened, but I think I do remember her.
Perpetrators were husband and wife duo Philip and Nancy Garrido. Despite numerous people witnessing the kidnapping, the trail went cold, and no one heard anything of Dugard for the next 18 years.
18 years, literally 18 years, like that is a long time. That's like basically the whole time I've been alive for. It's crazy, isn't it? Imagine like witnessing something like that. Like, how would you react? I mean, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably freak out.
In that time, Dugard was consistently assaulted by Philip Garrido and bore him 2 daughters. The case was finally broken by a special events manager named Lisa Campbell. Garrido was visiting UC Berkeley with his 2 daughters, and their, quote, erratic behavior caught Campbell's attention. After getting his name through the booking of an appointment, she notified the police, which eventually led to Garrido's arrest.
And if that woman didn't do that, then he would still have her. It's crazy, isn't it? It's just so awful how a human can do that to another human, isn't it? Whenever I think of humans, I think of lovely people who care for each other and are, you know, nice people. However, there's people like him and the other man, like there's actually quite a few of them.
Dugard was finally rescued and reunited with her mother on August 27th, 2009, now almost 30 years old.
Do you worry at some point they'll want to see him?
I want them to make their own choices in life, and if that's something that they need to do, then
Really?
you know,
You'd be okay with that?
I wouldn't be okay with it, but I wouldn't not let them do it.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? It's like she literally had her life stolen. Like, imagine the trauma she's been through. How would she even cope with that? It's like she went missing when she was, you know, a young child, and now she's like 30 when she was able to get away. It's just like, what do you do? Like, what do you literally do? You're gonna be messed up in the head. Like, you're gonna be messed for life.
Beau Bergdahl. In May of 2009, soldier Beau Bergdahl was working counterinsurgency in Afghanistan when his friend and fellow officer Brian Bradshaw was fatally hit by a roadside bomb. This likely tarnished Bergdahl's outlook on the war effort. He wrote to his family a few days later, and his email was full of critical language against the U.S. Army. Bergdahl subsequently disappeared under mysterious circumstances on June 30th.
I mean, imagine what, like, the army are thinking. Has he joined, you know, the enemy? I have a lot of respect for soldiers like that. Like, that's something I could not do. Imagine, you know, seeing the horrors that they see every day.
Of all the questions swirling around this young man, perhaps the most intriguing is, why did he leave his base in the first place?
No one knew where he was, and it would be almost a month before an insurgent group revealed that they were holding Bergdahl prisoner. He served as a POW until May 31st, 2014, when he was freed in exchange for Taliban prisoners.
I mean, thank God he was able to get away. So, like, he didn't actually run away. He was basically kidnapped and held captive. I mean, them people who hold him captive are awful people. Like, they're really, really horrible people. That poor man, he's been put through too much.
We learned today that doctors are so worried about his mental health after 5 years in Taliban custody that they've told his family not to reach out even just to say welcome back.
I mean, like, that would be horrific. Like, I don't know how you'd cope with that. It would be hard.
Later investigations showed that Bergdahl was likely snatched after abandoning his post. He was subsequently court-martialed and demoted. Talk about a not-so-welcome home.
Wait, so he literally got demoted? What does that mean? So this man was literally held captive for like months, put through hard times, and that's what he gets. I mean, that's like horrible. How can you literally do that to a soldier? I mean, a lot of soldiers around the world are homeless now. Like, imagine they literally fought for the country and then their country just completely abandoned them by like leaving them homeless. It's awful.
Elizabeth Smart.
Violently ripped from her own home and her own bed in the middle of the night.
Back in June of 2002, a man named Brian David Mitchell broke into the Smart household and abducted teenager Elizabeth Smart from her bedroom. Her sister, Mary Catherine, was also in the room at the time of the abduction, but faked being still sleeping.
Oh my God, imagine that. Imagine you're literally a child, someone breaks into your room, snatches your sister, and you have to pretend to be asleep. I've had scenarios like that in my head before. Like, imagine something really bad happened out in public and you have to pretend, you know, to not be alive. I practiced it before because you don't know, one day you might, you know, have to really do it.
Elizabeth remained with Mitchell and his wife for the next 9 months. Mary Catherine suddenly realized the man who took her sister was the same man who had worked on their house as a general laborer one day.
Oh my God, what? So it was literally somebody works in their house? So they literally planned that all along? Nah, that is so freaky. I couldn't deal with that. That is actually horrific.
A sketch of the man was drawn up and released to news outlets. One day, while walking in Sandy, Utah, several eyewitnesses recognized Mitchell's face and notified police of his location. He and his wife were successfully captured, and Smart was finally rescued.
I mean, thank God for that. We got to the end of it. Well, anyways, guys, that's where I leave that video there. If you want to see me make more videos like this, let me know. I definitely will. Press the big red subscribe button, and yes, I'll see you all in my next video.